So I'm starting. So hello everybody. Thank you for joining this session today with me about Podman. It will be an introduction of Podman. And before to start, I would like to say an important fact. So it's not a comparison. I will not do a comparison between Docker or Podman. The two products is very nice. I used on the past a lot of Docker. It's nice. So no, they share the same DNA. It's open source. So no war between products. Docker, it's a nice product. But it's a bit hot. So hello everybody. My name is Pierre Blanc. I come from Red Hat. I'm a software engineer and I live in Canada. So I think this will be very useful next month. On the last open source summit session, we already have some presentation of Podman, but they were more about by developer or architect. It's not the case on mine. I'm not a developer of the product itself, but more a user. I'm using it every day. I'm using also a lot of Podman and Kubernetes. And my job is to work with partners to help them on the container journey. So sometimes they are using a virtual machine. Sometimes they're still using bare metal. So my goal is to help them to understand what is the containerization and how to use it. My target is to use Kubernetes, so a container orchestrator. So I already did this kind of presentation for a partner. It will be about the capacities of Podman. So I will start with a very short introduction on what is Podman, why we have Podman, when it's released. Then we will see how to use it with command line demo. And I will continue with, to explain what's the nice feature of Podman and a quick introduction of the ecosystem. And I will finish with the conclusion and questions. So let's define first what is Podman, why it exists, and how it works. So Podman, it's a container compliance OCI, but Podman is not only a container manager, it's also a pod manager. So introduced by Kubernetes, a pod is a group of containers deployed for a common purpose. Podman is also secure by design. We have a specific section of security inside this presentation that explains what is rootless, daemonless, Linux capabilities, and more. Of course, Podman is open source, as all the other products that Red Hat supports. And it's multi-platform. So when we speak about container or Docker container, what is this? It's a Linux container. So it's very easy to start a container on the host, on Linux host, or on Linux server or Linux laptop. But when we want to spawn a container on Windows or macOS, it's not the same. So Podman creates a layer between the host and itself to be able to run container inside this kind of operating system. With Podman, we have also a very rich ecosystem with a lot of available image or a lot of tools to manage and interact with a registry, create image, and container. So we see what is Podman now, why we have Podman. So the goal of the Podman, initial goal, was to create and offer a way to test CRI-O. CRI-O, it's a runtime for Kubernetes. So that explains why Podman is very close of Kubernetes. The goal was to offer a secure project and a way to manage EasyPod in a local environment. So of course, Podman is compliant with OCI for container and images. And it fully integrates a lot of features that we can find in the Fedora and CentOS operating system base, like systemd, Linux integration. But before to speak about Podman, I would like to show you a very short story of the short story of open source container since the beginning. So this list is not exhaustive, of course. We have a lot of different projects and products between each date, but for me it's important. It's the most important for me. So everything started with Shroot. So it's here from the beginning. It's on the core util from 1996. Then we have Linux vServer, OpenVZ. So it's a real first container. And in 2008, cgroup was merged on the kernel, and it's the years also, or the year of LXC. So from this date, we have the first full managed container that work out of the box. In 2013, Docker creates its very huge ecosystem about container. So it facilitates the user to use container. So I think at this date, more and more users switch to container. So thanks again, Docker. And Kubernetes was released in 2014. So it provides a framework to run a distributed system with resilience. It takes care of scaling or failover for your application. So a nice date. And in 2017, finally, we have Podman. So the story of container is long. It's not a new thing. And we have a lot of different projects and products that contribute to the containerization environment. So for Podman, the first commit dates to 2017, so 5 years already. And the first release in 2018. I found more than 120 releases on the Git repository if I exclude the release candidate. And the last version is the 4.2.1. It just released this month. So we saw what is Podman, why we are Podman. Now let's check how it's works. So it's a very simple schema. We have the OCI engine that talk with the OCI runtime that finally talk to the Linux kernel. So it's very important. The OCI is very important. We have OCI every time. And OCI, it's Open Container Initiative. It's a Linux Foundation project, and it provides specification standard about container. So we have a runtime specification, we have distribution specification, we have image specification, and all these specifications are very important because one box can easily communicate with another. And if you build your image with Podman, it will work on Docker, it will work on Kubernetes, because all these projects follow the OCI specification. For OCI engine, we have Podman, but we can also have Docker. For OCI runtime, we have runc, but you have also cron. So you have a lot of different projects for each box, and you have to choose which one is the best for you regarding to your use case. Sorry. So before to finish the introduction, I would like to add a very short word about images. So they are very important because all the containers are based on one image. They must follow the OCI specification. Sorry. They use layer. So when you build an image, you just have to take a public one and add your stuff on it. The recipe to build an image is very simple. It's a plain text file, and it's understandable. An image is just a tar, finally, with all the file of the file system of the image, and image is distributed by registry. So it is the introduction. Now I think you have a better view of what is Podman, and the next step is to use it. So I will go through all the major behavior of Podman. So the first topic is the images, how to manage that. Then we will create a container and interact with it. We'll see volume, and we will finish with the pod. So how to create pod, how to use a pod in Podman. So to use Podman, you have the Podman command, and it's very similar to the Docker command. So all the options that you have in Podman, Docker, you have it in Docker. All the options that you have in Docker, you have it in Podman. So if you are a Docker user, you are not lost. Some guys also create an alias to continue to do the Docker command, but they use in the backend the Podman. So I said almost all Docker command is compatible with Podman. Only one is not compatible, it's Docker Swarm, because Podman chooses Kubernetes as the orchestrator of container. So let's start to image. When you want to manage and use the image with Podman, you have the Podman images command. You have also a lot of short commands. So you have Podman images, to do a Podman image list. You have Podman pool, etc. All the interaction that you can have with the image is often to the registry. So an image registry, it's a bucket. And on this bucket, you have a lot of images. So all cloud providers provide their own registry. So Google have one, Azure, Amazon have one too. In my case, I'm using a lot of docker.io and quay.io because they are public and free. But it exists a lot of solutions. You can also install your own registry in your infrastructure, and it can be based on an open source project. So let's do the demo. I don't know if everybody see my screen. So what I have, I'm doing Podman images to see all the image on my local server. I have nothing, so I don't have the same thing between the two screens. So I'm doing Podman images. I have nothing. I can get an image with Podman image pool. So on this example, I'm getting the Alpine image. And after that, I can see that I have my image on my environment with Podman image list or Podman images. So I have another demo. It's to interact with a registry. So with Podman, we have a feature to do that. We will see on the next of the presentation, we have another project that's name is Scopeo, that we have a better integration with registry. But on this example, I'm just doing a Podman image search with the name of the image that I want to search on the registry. In my case, I test with Alpine. So I have a lot of image with Alpine. And I have a filter to get only the official image of Alpine. So with a filter is official. And with that, I will get only one result because only one is official. It is this one, and can pull this one if I want. I also have an option is format JSON. So this option is available for all the Podman command. With this, we can get a result on JSON of the command. So it can be useful if you want to parse it, or if you want to get and have more information about the image. About the life cycle, so now we will see how to create a container, how to list the container, how to stop and restart container. So it's a Podman container command, and you also have a shortcut like Podman run, Podman ps, etc. So yes, on this example, I will create a container. So first, I'm checking if I have some container running on my server. So I have nothing. Now I'm checking if I can access to the port 8080 of my server. I have nothing listen on the port. So I'm running a container. With the option P, it's just for forward the port. So the port 8080 of my local server will go to the port 80 of my container. So I execute the command to run the container, and now I have my container is running. And if I curl again, I will see something. So let's speak a bit about volumes. So with Podman, like with Docker, you can mount volume inside your container. So to do that, you have the option -v, and you have also the way to create a named volume. Something that's very important here, it's SO Linux. So a lot of people deactivate SO Linux. So I know that. And I think on this room, maybe somebody deactivated. And SO Linux is not complicated. So 80% or 90% of the issues that you can have in SE Linux can be fixed with the command semanage. So with semanage, you can modify the context of the file, of the units, and you can fix all your issue almost with that. So SE Linux provides an additional layer of security for your system, so it's a good thing. So think about that. Maybe you can, and it can be a nice idea to reactivate SE Linux. And Podman, with Podman, you can easily manage SE Linux issue or configuration. So I will show you that. So on this example, I will create a container, and I will mount a directory to modify the index.html. So I have an index.html in my local environment. So I use the -v directory, so it's a source to the destination of on my container, user, share, and Nix. And at the end, I put the option Z. And with the Z, it will relabel your directory, and with this, SE Linux will work perfectly. So now I'm currently on the port 8080, and I have my new index that it shows. User dependent. So I go through of a lot of features, but this one is very important because when you're connected on server with Podman, each user can have its own container. So you don't need a special configuration. You just have to connect to the server with my user and start to play with Podman. All the images, all the container will be stored on my home directory. I don't need to be a root. I don't need to be part of the group. It will work out of the box. And for example, so on this example, I have a container that is run in the root user. So I'm just waiting a bit because it is the end of the demo. So on this demo, I will run two containers, one by the root and one by a normal user. And we will see that user not see a container of other user. So I activated SE Linux, so it's on force. I'm checking if I am something on the port 80. So yes, I am something because just before I run a container with root. So if I sudo podman ps, I will see the container that is started by the root user. Now if I check the image that the root user have, I can see I have one image. Now I don't use the sudo command, I just use podman images. And I can see the images are different because each user have his own image and his own container. So I can see that podman ps, so I don't have any container running with a normal user. So I will just start a new container with a normal user. And on this example, I have container that's running with root and other with my normal user. So it's just an example, but and I run with root, but I can run multiple containers with multiple users. No limit. We don't have any limit with that. And let's check now the pods. So as I said, pods it's the group of containers. They are using for the common purpose, so it can be an application. On your application, you can have, for example, a backend, front-end, or multiple front-end, etc. Everything can be grouped on the pod. And if you want to stop your pod, your application, it will stop all the container of the pod. If you want to clone your application, if you have, for example, on your application 10 container, you want to clone it to application 2, you have a command to that, and it will clone very easily all the container inside the pod. So to manage the pod, it's podman pod. It's not complicated. So on this example, what I will do, I will create a pod, put two containers inside, and do some life cycle and see what's happened. So let's check first if I have something in the port 8080. So I have nothing because no container are running. I'm creating a new container and add the option -- pod. With the -- pod, I put new column app, so it will create a new pod. The name will be app. On this new app pod, I create a container for the website, and I create another. So I put the -- pod with the app. I put a new container. It will be the database. So on my pod now I have two containers, one for web, other for database. So if I podman ps or pod ps, I will see my pod, and on my pod I have 3 containers just here. 3 containers because I always have one container to manage a pod. So if I podman ps, I will see the 3 containers, the HTTP container, the MariaDB container, and the pod container. Now, if I stop my application, it will stop all my container. If I start my application, again, it will start all my container. So it is a way to manage pod in Podman. Of course, we have other way. We have an import and export feature that I will explain when I will explain what's the connection that we have between Podman and Kubernetes. So on this section, I will speak about what is the big feature that we have in Podman and what is interesting. So I will speak about the security. I will speak about Linux capability, SLinux. I will give you a short introduction of the ecosystem of Podman, and we will see what is the possibility that we have with Podman and Kubernetes. So Podman is rootless, so you don't have to give a special right to your user. As I showed just before, you just have you just need a login on the server, and you can start to run a container. No group are needed, and nothing is run on root. So it's reduce the possibility to hack your system finally. All the containers are owned by the user, and nothing is owned by root. So Podman is also daemonless, so you don't have a single point of failure. You don't have a daemon that is manage all the container, and every time that you create a new container, it just creates a new process. And it's used on daemon because you don't have a daemon. It's daemonless. If you, for example, you upgrade your system, and if you upgrade Podman, it will not stop all your container because each container has its own process. About security, so because it's rootless and daemonless, it's increased a lot of security of the container manager because they reduce the root usage. About SLinux, for me, it should be always activate. It's other layer of security. It's very nice, and we have also a project that the name is UDK, and it can help you to manage the SLinux rule for your container. If, for example, you have a very complex container or pod, you can run UDK for the running container. It will create a lot of rule SLinux module, and you can use this module for this in local, or you can also put in other server to load with SO manage and SO module. We also have Linux capabilities. So Linux capabilities can limit the power of the super user. On the Linux kernel splits the privilege of root, the super user, in different units. And this unit, it's Linux capabilities. And because Podman is rootless, even if you use a dash privilege, the container will never use and will never have access to the host in a root mode. seccomp now you have. So seccomp is used to filter the syscall of the system. So fewer the syscall is available and smaller the attack surface is. So it's very interesting also for the security. And by default, Podman dropped many syscall, but we have option to drop many more. And I put the two links because there are very interesting links about all the security around Podman, and they give you a lot of examples and how it's work in deep. About the ecosystem, so we have Builda. Builda is the tool, so you have Podman, Builda, UDK, I said, to SE Linux. We have Builda, it's to build the image. So you can build the image with Podman build, but we have a special tool, and it adds some nice feature. For example, you can build your image with your Docker file, but with Builda, it's also you to access to the interactive mode. So you load your image, you can modify it, and create an image with your modification. So it's very easy to modify and debug an image if you have issue with image, or if you want to test a specific thing on an image, you just have to load it and start to play with it. Scopeo. Scopeo, it's part of the ecosystem of Podman. It's a tool to copy container. So you can take a container from a registry and move it or duplicate it in another registry. You can use it also to sync multiple registry. You can also do it some action on registry like push thing or just delete images. And you also can inspect container. So it can give you a lot of information of one image on a registry. And finally, the connection between Podman and Kubernetes is done by two processes, import and export. So for the import, if you have your Kubernetes file, YAML file, you can import it on Podman, and it will recreate everything on your local server. So if you have a pod, it will create pod, it will create container inside, it will create everything. So it is very nice if you want to test a container, a Kubernetes file on your local environment, if you want to do some action and see what's happened. Before to export it in the Kubernetes cluster, you can test it locally before. And it is an import feature. And the export feature is the same way in the other way. So you can do all the infrastructure on your local environment. You can create your pod, create your container that you put inside your pod, etc. And when you are done, you just have to export to Kubernetes, and it will create a file that you will be able to use on your Kubernetes cluster. So it's very interesting. About the bonus, with Podman, you can also manage virtual machine. So it's a light way to use virtual machine, but when you want to create a container on macOS or on Windows, it will create a virtual machine and spawn the container inside. But you can also create this virtual machine on your Linux server or Linux laptop. And the virtual machine is interesting because it's a CoreOS. So it will create a CoreOS. CoreOS, it's an immutable operating system. So it's a perfect operating system to run a container. And you can play with that. It also supports ignition file. So with the initial file, you can modify and configure the CoreOS operating system. That with this, it can be matched with what you need to test. So I'm already used it on the past. It's an interesting feature. And if you like the UI, you also have a Podman desktop. So the Podman desktop, it's an interface, and on this interface you will see all the container, all your image. You can interact with them. You can access to the log easily. You can directly go to the console of the container, and you also have a way to manage your registry, manage image, a lot of nice features. So if you like graphical interface, Podman desktop, it's nice. For more information, so we have Dan Walsh. It's for me the master of Podman presentation. He did a lot of presentation. This website is just here. On this website, you have a lot of resources about Podman, about ecosystem, and about security. So it's really a gold mine. And you can also access to all the last presentations that he did about Podman. It's very, very nice presentation. And he also published some few weeks ago amazing book. So with a lot of example, it's very well documented. Dan Walsh, it's one of the core developer of Podman since the beginning. So that's why he knows very well the project. And on his book, you also have a comparison, very deep comparison between Docker and Podman, if you are interested. So for the conclusion, after 5 years of development, Podman is definitely ready to be used. It's secure out of the box. The integration with Kubernetes is very good. On my day-to-day job, I'm working with partners. They are using Fedora, CentOS, Rails distribution, and they are very happy that in Podman you can use systemd and you can use SE Linux without issue. So if you are using this kind of technology, it can be a nice project for you, Podman. And the integration with Kubernetes, it's amazing. It's very easy to test some play, or before to put everything in the Kubernetes cluster, you can test it very easily locally. Thank you for your time. I'm just finished. So if you have questions, go ahead. And if not, it's time to eat, I think. Oh, you have a question? I hope it's not a question about Docker.
Hi. Thanks for the talk. It has something also related to Docker. On Docker, you can configure the logging driver at the daemon level in the daemon config file, or as a flag when you do a Docker run. Is there any workaround for Podman to disable or enable the logs? Can you
repeat your question, because it's with your mask it's a bit.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, yes.
So on Docker, you can configure the Docker the logging driver on a daemon file or as a flag during the Docker run command. Is there any workaround for Podman to disable or enable the logs for the containers?
I see. It's a bit different in Podman because we don't have a centralized daemon. So you cannot have a way to modify the log on all the container, because each user has its own log finally.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your question. No other question? Perfect. So thank you again, and have a nice lunch.